Welcome to Status Quo, your home for gaming trends past and present. This is episode number 10. I am Queasy Crayfish, joined as always by my esteemed colleague in studio today, Mars Vindicator. Correctamundo.
That's right, I'm here. So this is not, over the net thing. This is live. So we're gonna be staring each other in the eyes when we have disagreements.
Yes, indeed.
It's gonna get
raw. Hell yeah. Hostile.
It's very hostile.
All right, well, shall we just get straight to it? Flake news?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, well, flake news, I have 5, pretty mediocre articles to talk about here. Headlines. The first one, actually, this is not mediocre. This had to be brought up because it's me. Shenmue 1 and 2 releases August 21st.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I definitely think that's real news. And I'll actually get more into that later. But, yeah, I think that Sega is doing a good job with, I think, being on top of this. Because I stress, I want everybody to remember, Shenmue 3 is not being developed by Sega. That the person who led that series has his own thing, and he's doing that by himself. So with Sega still having the rights to those 2 games, they're now able to cash in on that. And I think another reason it's good is because we get a lot of Genesis stuff over and over and over again, but rarely do we get good Saturn or Dreamcast releases. So it's cool to see them do this.
Yes, especially because Shenmue is probably my favorite game of all time. Although, just to add a little more Shenmue news here, Shenmue 1 and 2 apparently will not have Spanish subtitles.
¿Qué? ¿Qué? Well, there it is. They're not looking out for the Spanish speakers this time?
No, not at all. There's, some definite Spanish hate going on there. Yeah. All right. Number 2, we have Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter and Assassin's Creed Liberation are backwards compatible now on Xbox One. So you can play your favorite early Xbox 360 title, Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter, and you can play yet another Assassin's Creed on your Xbox One.
Yeah. That's pretty, par for the course,
right.
Oh, yeah, the big name third-party game that was $60 and then $2 the next month because it was mass-produced and everybody forgot about it is backwards compatible.
Yeah, the only reason I picked this one is because Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter is actually the first game I ever owned for the 360. And
because that was the one that was like everybody was playing at first, right? That was like the pre-Halo 3 Halo.
Yeah, because there wasn't a whole lot out.
I mean, look, you guys could have been playing King Kong. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Peter Jackson's King Kong. What was wrong with you?
Well, who knows? Not a Jack Black fan. So yeah,
is he in that movie or something?
Yeah, he's in the movie.
Oh shit!
You didn't see the movie?
No.
This was a good movie. It was like 5 hours long, but it was good. Okay. And now this one. Arc System Works has a new game, and it's super anime, and I don't know anything about it. I just know it's called Kill La Kill the Game. Subtitle is If in capital letters. IF. I don't know if maybe it's IF or maybe it's If. I don't know. It's super anime. I don't know anything about it, so...
I'm pretty sure Kill La Kill is an anime.
Oh, yeah.
And so...
Yeah, no, it said that in the...
Now you said a new game. Is this a fighting game?
It says arena style, though, I believe.
Okay. Well, I mean... Arc System Works.
They're doing it big.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they do some good stuff. They really do some good stuff. I don't know how well they'll do it in an arena fighting game, but I feel like their 2D fighting games I feel like they have like almost a perfect track record there. So
there you go.
We'll see.
There you go. It definitely looked like this. Well, it looks similar to Fighter Z in art style and everything, I guess.
Okay.
Infinity Ward, who is the developer famously of Modern Warfare 2, well, Modern Warfare 2, the big Call of Duty games before they kind of fell off the map. is hiring apparently for next-gen development with an eye for 2019.
Okay.
So that I thought was interesting because it puts a target on a date that was a little earlier than I had been expecting. Especially since we didn't get any next-gen announcements or details at all at E3. So that's kind of interesting.
I mean, that to me, that just sounds kind of crazy. Because personally, I don't even think... I'll say this. If new systems come out next year, I will probably consider this the worst gaming generation of all time. And not because it is like bad, but because I think that there's so much that we haven't even done or seen yet. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, it feels like they're just kind of hitting their stride.
Yeah, exactly. This doesn't feel like Gran Turismo 4, Final Fantasy 12 era PS2. This feels more like a year or two before that. So
yeah, agreed.
I don't know.
That's an interesting topic in and of itself.
Exactly.
Well, finally, and this will kind of go into our first topic of the day, but returning to Soulcalibur 6 after a one-game absence is Talim.
Everybody's returning to Soulcalibur 6 with a one-game absence. They had this last one was Soulcalibur Kids. So
yeah. Well, speaking of Soulcalibur Kids, Talim.
She's the OG Soulcalibur.
Apparently,
kid,
she's the most requested character. So hashtag pedophilia. Question mark.
I mean, was she really pedophilia, or was everybody else just like absurd?
I think she's no older than 16. I know that.
I realized the other day neither was Sung Mina.
Really?
Yeah, like in one.
I'm pretty sure she was older.
Or like at least, or maybe even in Soul Blade. I thought something she's like 15.
Oh, it was probably because they gave her that housewife costume in Soul Calibur 2. That's what it looked like. It was like that huge, like antiquated blouse and stuff. Like, yeah,
that was like a Korean style.
Oh, was it? I don't know. Well, when I was. We
were 12 or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought
what was Korea?
Big pilgrim dress.
Right, yeah. Who knows?
So, anyway, so Soul Calibur, first topic of the day, just to kind of lead into it. Story mode was revealed in a translated article on Silicon Era, talking about the story mode. It sounded kind of interesting. It sounded like something that I would like more than, say, the way Tekken did it, or the way even Mortal Kombat did it in the most recent one. Because I think the problem I always have with these story modes is the way they force you to kind of play through, to switch characters constantly and everything. And this sounded like it had individual character episodes. It had the characters interacting a lot, like actually talking to each other, like conversational segments and stuff like that. Lots of cool artwork, which kind of harkens back to Soul Calibur 1 and the museum and all of that stuff. So, I don't know, thoughts on the new Soul Calibur 6 story mode?
Well, I mean, for me, it's just really big in terms of just in the sheer fact that it even exists in this fashion, because I feel like, they've been focusing so much on making fighting games only competitive, and I mean, we talked about this last week, but I mean, I must stress again, Fighting EX Layer has no modes except for online and practice, so yeah, I mean, it's really cool that Namco is not, following this trend of Adika and Capcom, and really trying to give us some sort of good single player, modes. And I mean, and it really makes me happy that Soul Calibur is doing this, because that's what they've always been famous for. I'll probably say hands down, over time, I think Soul Calibur has been the fighting game that gave me the most and the best single player content.
Oh yeah.
I think, that there's no debate there. I mean, I've always loved, I still consider myself a Tekken player. But, that was just match after match after match. But Soul Calibur always did a great job with the Weapon Master mode or the mission modes. And, and it always just felt really cool. And it was a good way to, like, dive into that, really unfamiliar, more older world. Because Tekken takes place in the present day. So, it can, it's like whatever. So,
yeah. I think, I mean, that's kind of the way that Soulcalibur was, because it wasn't really like a competitive fighting game, and even when they tried to make it one in 5, it didn't take. No one played it. I think it had one Evo maybe. And of course, like small number of entrants and stuff like that. So I mean, then I'm sure they'll probably try to do that again, but. The niche for Soulcalibur is not really competitive play. It's more, quote unquote casual, but it's single player stuff. It's getting to know the characters, getting wrapped up in that world and everything like that. And I definitely agree. That's where Soulcalibur needs to be. So I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, I mean, like, most definitely. And I mean, yeah, like, so I guess I would consider Soulcalibur like a faux competitive game. Because it's like, okay, like for example, like I remember when I used to like sit back with my cousins and play Tekken, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't fun because I was just better than everyone, right? So it's like you're just, this person's good, he's just gonna win. But I remember like going, round after round in like Soulcalibur, and I mean, granted, I didn't play that game as much, so I wasn't that good at it, but even still, it was just so fun playing that. And oh, he's got Mitsurugi, and he did this crazy thing, and oh, he's got Valdo, and he's humping the floor,
Well, yeah, it was more pick up and play. That was
always cool.
Yeah, it wasn't all about big combos, and it had no meter up until 5 at all, so you didn't have to worry about that. Of course, it did have deeper things you could do, a guard impact system and all that stuff, but if you're just casually picking it up, you can do pretty well right off the bat, because it's smooth, it's easy to do. Juggles are easy to do, everything. You can get lots of ring outs if you want, stuff like that. And the characters are super appealing. I think, it's a great series.
No, yeah, it just definitely is. And I mean, and then, it kind of goes without saying too. I think if you look at this by company, I think, obviously Soulcalibur is better than Tekken when it comes to single player stuff. But even Tekken does a great job with what they do. And they were one of the bigger companies that starting, the endings and all that, that part of the fighting game. So, yeah, it's just great for me to see Namco, in general, not stray from what made us like them in the first place. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like endings. I like dialogue. I want to flesh those characters out more.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the dialogue thing, that's really interesting. And, that was another thing that kind of occurred to me, just like, we're all about these games where, you create your own character and you go through the story and, make your own decisions and everything like that. But why is it that in fighting games where you have usually this very diverse cast of characters, and a lot of times, especially in these legacy fighting games, super well-known characters, why is it that we're not given the ability to do that? Like, why can't we choose whether, Jin in Tekken decides to, be noble in this situation or to be evil in another situation or whatever, like why is there not like a branching story or something that you could do really interesting with all these different characters that you have? So I'm hoping it turns out to be something like that, because that could be a really new and exciting thing.
Yeah, like exactly. Yeah, that would be extremely dope, especially in the context of Tekken, especially with Jin. That right there is an easy story, for them to do. But will they? I mean, yeah, I don't even. I mean, they don't even make character profiles anymore in the books, because they don't even make books. So we won't get too into that, but
depends how much esports they want to do.
Exactly. So but I mean, yeah, I mean, the more old characters in this, the better. Because, like I said, Soulcalibur 5 was.
It's been mostly old characters so far.
Exactly.
So, we kind of mentioned legacies and stuff like that. It doesn't really segue too well, but a developer like, I guess, was it Project Soul that does Soulcalibur?
Yeah.
Definitely got a long legacy of games, under their belt and everything like that. Some might say they're an underrated developer. Some might say they're an overrated developer. And so we're going to transition into this next segment. And we're going to talk a little bit about, basically, first of all, the whole concept of, we thought maybe we could do this every week or, every once in a while, where we talk about something gaming related, whether it's a game or a genre or, developer or whatever. something that's underrated, something that's overrated. So today, we're starting off with developers. So I'll send it over to you. What do you think? Developers, anything underrated, overrated?
So, my underrated developer is one that we've already talked about. This is, of course it's coming from Mars Vindicator and Queasy Crayfish. But I think I have good points and good reason. It's AM2. AM2 is an underrated developer. Now, I said AM2, and it's funny because a lot of people are probably thinking, like, who the hell is AM2? Mm-hmm. Exactly. They're underrated. AM2 is a division of Sega, okay?
Yes.
Well, they were. I guess they still are, but I'll get into that. They're most famously known for probably Virtua Fighter. Okay, it's probably their most famous game. But they have done a lot of other things, notably Shenmue.
Yes, which we just talked about.
Daytona USA.
Yes.
Right. Did they do Virtua Cop?
Oh, let's look it up.
We have to look that up.
I'm looking it up right now.
Because I think that whole thing, Daytona, Virtua Fighter... Yeah, it's AM2.
Yeah, AM2. Let's not forget Outrigger.
Outrigger. One that we're not going to talk about. But so, the reason why I say that AM2 is an underrated developer, specifically Yu Suzuki. So yeah, let's look at these games here. Of course we have a couple things here that aren't, the biggest games ever, like Arabian Fight or, Sega Race TV.
Sega Golf Club.
Exactly. Like, what is that, right? But we have a couple games here that I think are, like, huge gaming staples that don't get the respect they deserve for a couple of reasons. And I'll start with Virtua Racing, okay? Now, Virtua Racing is one of the first more, like, well-known, 3D games. And AM2 did a lot of work to port that over to consoles. If I'm not mistaken, it was on... Actually, let's go up and click on that. I think...
Racing Mega Drive.
Yeah, so yeah, we have it on the Mega Drive. And I think it was also like on the 32X. And the Saturn, right? So they did a lot of work to bring this to 3D. And this was kind of the precursor that got things like Daytona USA started, right? So... Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about 3D games. I mean, yeah, what year did that come out? 1993, 1992?
94 for the Mega Drive version, 92 in the arcade.
Yeah, so we're talking about the 3D game in 92, you guys. Like, keep in mind that Super Nintendo came out in 91, okay? So a year after the Super Nintendo was released, we have a 3D racing game. Like, that's huge, you know what I'm saying? Fast forward, again, everybody knows Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat, right? Everybody knows Smash Bros. Everybody knows Mortal Kombat. But people, I think, like to forget Virtua Fighter. You know what I'm saying? Fighting games were, again, I think we mentioned this in the last episode. Fighting games were just fighting games, right? There was no 2D fighting game until Virtua Fighter. So, like, it changed that entire genre, okay? It made 3D... the kind of the new medium, the new way to do fighting games. And then everybody else was playing catch up at this point. Street Fighter was struggling with EX. They had Alpha and 3 come out. They were still big, but they wanted to get 3D. Mortal Kombat wanted to go 3D. The Fatal Fury games, those wanted to try to go 3D. SNK. But Virtua Fighter, we have to remember, that did it first. And yes, Virtua Fighter was never great with character development or characters at all. They are all just blank stereotypes. But that is huge. And then, another reason why I want people to put some respect on Virtua Fighter's name is because they didn't just change the entire genre once, but they did it twice. Because I want everybody to remember that all this whole ranking thing that we have in every fighting game now, this whole character customization thing that we have in every fighting game now, came from Virtua Fighter 4. You know what I'm saying? They were the first ones to do the Kumite mode with like just kind of that endless fighting, in the rankings, and then getting items to customize your character. They did that first. So while, yes, Tekken had much more lovable characters, but Virtua Fighter 4 was the first time where I could really take these characters and customize them and not just have palette swap, costumes, right?
Yes.
So, and this was Sega, and AM2 doing this on a Sony platform in the arcade at this point. This wasn't even on the Sega system. So for a game to literally be able to say that it changed the genre twice in two totally different eras, that is huge and well deserving of respect. Finally, we talk about this game all the time, and I as well as you know, I think people need again to put some respect on this. There was no open world until Shenmue came out. This was the first game where I was like, so I can just walk to the store and buy a capsule toy. So I could just like go, I could just go to this vending machine and buy a soda, like just because, you know, like it doesn't have any, it's no reason, you know, like that's not just like, that's not just like a graphic of a vending machine there. That's like something I can actually interact with.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, there were open worlds, but they were not on the level of realism or
exactly day-night cycles, getting allowance, having a bedtime, going to work.
Yeah, going to work was a big one.
Yeah, like people being outside at different times, you know, like so this, yeah, like you know, and so yeah, this is pre Grand Theft Auto 3. You know, this is pre, you know, whatever else you want to talk about, Saints Row. So, you know, I think, you know, 3. So I guess here 4 major times. 2 times with the same franchise. AM2 totally changed genres, right? And I just think personally they don't get the respect that they deserve for that. People, you know, Sega's kind of a laughingstock now. It's like the example of what not to do. You know, they just have shitty Sonic games. But like, you know, I mean, Sega's done a lot of other things, you know, of course, that I think are groundbreaking. But AM2 has like done a lot for games, and I think that they need more respect for that.
Okay. Well, damn. That was quite a good thesis there.
Yeah, well, thank you. I write those.
Yeah. Well, now, my overrated developer, this is going to probably piss people off. And I will clarify.
It's Nintendo. Zelda sucks.
Yeah, Zelda's trash. No, that's being facetious. I'm talking specifically about their original intellectual properties. Is fucking BioWare. Because I played Mass Effect on stream a few days ago, and I just could not get into this game. And I know I've had this game recommended to me a number of times, and I'm gonna give it another chance. But yeah, I can't believe how bored I was after about an hour and a half. Just like no motivation to go on, no idea what was even happening, no connection to any characters. And, you know, the thing that kind of got me thinking about this was, so I loved Knights of the Old Republic when I played Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, although 2 is not done by BioWare, it was Obsidian, but basically they just took everything that BioWare... Well, and actually, you know, Obsidian might have actually been a subsidiary of BioWare at that time, so that's a possibility anyway. But point being, I loved those games. Then they were... And, you know, also, side note, they did Baldur's Gate. So I'm not trying to say they suck. Because, I mean, anyone that makes a game like Baldur's Gate, if my cat makes noise, he just walked in there. Oh, there he is. Well, let's take this time to introduce our co-host, Lord Smokington. He's been on the show before, once or twice, I think. But anyway, he's here now.
Brief appearance.
Yeah, so what was I saying? Anyway, you know, they made Baldur's Gate, they made Knights of the Old Republic, so they've made great games, but both of those were properties that they did not specifically own or create. And I love Knights of the Old Republic. I came off of playing those games. I was super excited for their next game, Jade Empire. Came out about the special edition, glossy cover. There's 2 discs. It's got some special features disc in it, huge book and everything. And I just could never get into that game. I could never get it. I only got maybe 2-3 hours in. I tried playing it several times from the beginning, and it just, every time I just would get bored and disinterested. And I thought, well, you know, maybe I just don't like the setting, maybe I don't like the characters, whatever, you know. Didn't really think too much of it. Then I got Dragon Age in college. I got Dragon Age, the first one. Couldn't get into it. Traded it in within a week. Just couldn't get into the characters, couldn't get into the story, couldn't get into the setting, nothing. And I didn't really engage with BioWare at all after that. I didn't play any of the following Dragon Age games. But as an outside observer, I remember hearing things about Mass Effect, and it was good and all this, I didn't think, visually it didn't look that interesting to me, but, it was always kind of something I thought I would try eventually. And then I remember hearing people really complaining a lot about Mass Effect 3 and complaining about the ending and, how they dumbed the series down in 2 and 3 and so on and so forth. And then Mass Effect Andromeda, everyone apparently hates that game. More or less. And now we've got Anthem that they're working on, and the response that game got when they showed it at E3 was just so moot. Like everyone was just already writing it off and kind of rolling their eyes at it. And so, I'm just thinking, this is a developer that has a big name and people put respect on the name, if you will. But what have they really done with their own intellectual properties that has been so outstanding? They've done great work with other people's things, other people's universes, I think, because Knights of the Old Republic is a fantastic... I played that recently, and it was, still good, And Baldur's Gate, of course, Dungeons & Dragons, incredibly complex combat system and RPGs and everything. It's great stuff, but when I sit down and I play Jade Empire, when I play Mass Effect, I'm just bored instantly, and I don't know why that is. So I'm going to say they're a little overrated, at least in terms of their creative work, stuff that they've done with original characters, original settings, and all of that.
Well, okay, now I do have a short rebuttal here. Okay. It'll be a short rebuttal. I will also just say this. So it's funny that you said an hour and a half. There's a very famous, I'll call it Hyper Evo story, where King 50 Cal, our Hyper Evo, teammate, if you will, played Mass Effect for an hour or so, and he had basically never played an RPG before. So he was like, "This is the most piece of trash shit I've ever played." Right? And Zilla and Dread King Dave were like, "Look, you dumbass! This is a dope game. Keep playing it." And so King 50 Cal, who never liked RPGs, never played any, and even didn't like this game initially, after he played it for a couple of hours, more than 3, I think, it then became one of his most favorite series of all time, right? So I do, I have heard before, and I do agree that Mass Effect, the first one, is very slow and very uninteresting for quite a while, right? And I will agree with that.
As is Jade Empire.
And said I haven't even played Jade Empire. And I will say this: I do like BioWare games, and this is mostly. It's funny because I'll tell people I like BioWare games, but to keep it real, that's all built off of Mass Effect 2. Because even Dragon Age, I liked Inquisition and I liked Dragon Age 2. I couldn't get into 1.
Yeah.
But I did like those games. But Mass Effect 2 just really stood out to me. With the first Mass Effect, I think what I could say about that is I think that game is a lot. It may be a lot like how a lot of NES games are to me. Something that if you played it when it was out, it felt really cool. But then afterwards, it just becomes extremely dated. And even I, as a fan of Mass Effect, if I play through the series, I'd much rather use one of the app things they made to make those decisions and then just start with 2. I'm not a big fan of 1 because it is very, it was immediately outdated. From the moment you turn on Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 1 is just outdated. So I will give you that.
Well, as a side note, another thing that bugs me about them is, and this hasn't been the case with Anthem, obviously, because they, probably have $1 billion to make that game, but it seems like every game, and this is true of Bethesda as well, where it's there's these things as far as presentation, animations, and things like that are continually excused with them. Where it's I understand Knights of the Old Republic is an old game, low budget, they had the Star Wars license, they did what they could with it. But like when you get up to like Mass Effect Andromeda, like come on, like why do we have terrible animations? Why do we have terrible faces?
But everyone knows Mass Effect Andromeda sucks, and you know that. Well, and well, that's the thing. Like who excused it?
I don't feel like people did.
We didn't. Everybody hated that game, and
maybe that's when they called them out. But up until that point. No. Jade Empire, Dragon Age.
I can't say anything about Jade Empire, but Mass Effect 2 and 3 have very good production value.
Okay. So I haven't really seen them in action, but Jade Empire, Dragon Age, I remember being quite ugly. The first one.
Oh yeah, the first one looks like shit.
Yeah, quite ugly. And this is, like I was saying, it's true of Bethesda as well. People, Fallout 4, well, yeah, it looks a little crappy, but, it's like, there's no excuse for that. With the amount of money these people are putting into these games, there's no excuse for the faces looking messed up. There's no excuse for the animations looking ridiculous. It's pretty bad.
I mean, I guess, 2 and 3, I'm not going to say, it's definitely not like Final Fantasy level quality. But I think 2 and 3 are decent. But you remember, even when I recommended you to play Mass Effect, I pointed out that Mass Effect 1 was dated.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So, that's why, another reason why, I'm like, okay, yeah, is because, truth be told, I've played all three Mass Effect games, and then I played partway through that other piece of shit, and then I played Dragon Age 2 and 3.
It's like in name only.
Yeah. Well, and because that game was made by a B team, right?
Andromeda?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's like another thing. So it is still BioWare, but the thing was they took their main team off of Mass Effect and put this B team on Andromeda, and then the main team has been working on Anthem. So that's kind of why some of the Mass Effect layover crew, why some people still have some faith in Anthem is because that's we know it's a different team. So yeah, the Andromeda team sucks, and
it's like Dark Souls 2 all over again.
Exactly,
the B team.
But with that being said, I played MDK2 on the Dreamcast, and they should have never put that shit on there because they try to use the A, B, X, and Y as another stick.
Yeah.
No, So
yeah. Well, yeah. I'm gonna give it another chance because I'm not discounting the fact that I probably just wasn't in the mood to play it at the time. I was tired. The idea of going through dialogue trees and everything was just kind of so I'm going to give it another chance, hopefully get a little further in it and we'll see how it goes. And especially I could probably be able to just breeze through that opening because I am going to just start over completely because I don't even remember half of the stuff.
No, I'll definitely give you that. And we have some time. I do just want to say that I think bigger than this, there's this thing where people just respect games and love games because people say that they're good.
Yes.
But look, Mass Effect 1 came out at a time where I'm trying to think of the game I played, my main game before Mass Effect 1 was probably Genji on the PS3. Okay.
Oh, God.
That was probably the game I had played long before that. Probably maybe Genji and then Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection, right? So this is one of the first times I'm making a character, and all that shit was really interesting then. But I could definitely see that in 2018, Mass Effect 1, I think I'll piss off my, comrades here. But yeah, it's not that good, Zilla. It's not. It got old fast. Now 2 and 3 is a different story.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna try it again.
3 up until the ending.
Up until the ending, the controversial ending.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps that up.
Yeah, I would say it's wrapped up. I like that point though. I like the challenge.
Uh huh. Well, it was either that or Bungie. So
Oh shit.
Suck on that one. All right. Okay, well, kind of still talking about developers a little bit. Crossplay was our next topic that we wanted to talk about. And, we might get a return of the smoking cat. the thing about crossplay, and this has been in the news a lot recently, and it's funny because this is always like the thing we dreamed about as kids, like when you get a new console and you like put the PlayStation disc in your Sega Saturn just to see if it works.
And then it does.
And then it does.
Shit, I play a bug.
Yeah,
on the PlayStation.
You know, oh yeah, I'll just bring my Saturn game over and I'll play it on your PlayStation. You know, it's kind of like that. Albeit a little bit different with the online aspect of it. But yeah, the idea of playing together regardless of what console you have. And it's been in the news a lot specifically with Sony's refusal to partake in this. And, you know, originally I was kind of on the fence about it, and I could see, you know, they were basically dominating the market. There's no reason that they should feel obligated to do it other than to seem like this benevolent, you know, force in the industry that's all about the player or whatever. But it started to get a little ridiculous now, especially with like the Fortnite thing, where if you play it on PS4 first, then you can't use that account on any other platform, things like that, and just the way they kind of outright are refusing other companies overtures as far as crossplay is concerned, and I've seen a number of developers come forward, specifically Epic, I think, was the one that was pointing out that like, oh, just Sony doesn't want to partake, or no, excuse me, it was Bethesda, it was Fallout 76. They wanted to do apparently crossplay with that because it was, you know, the whole point of that game is it's online, and they decided to scrap that specifically because Sony was not playing ball with that. So, thoughts on crossplay?
Well, one of the interesting things to me about crossplay, which a lot of people don't know, is that one of the first like major titles that had crossplay was Final Fantasy XI, right? And a lot of people don't even realize that Final Fantasy XI was crossplay because when it first came out, I'm pretty sure it already was PC to PS2, but then they added 360. Right? So that means that, like, not only was it cross-play between companies, that was also cross-generational. Mm-hmm. You know, so you had like 360 people playing with PS2 people. That's kind of absurd. So it's definitely a thing that, you know, if anybody's out there saying that like, oh, it's a thing to do and it's hard and da da da, like, no, like they can definitely do this. If I were a Sony business executive, would I allow cross-play? I don't exactly know. But as a player, I do think that, you know, it is something that we should have. But with that being said, though, because yeah, if you ask me about like crossplay in a vacuum, like yes, like we should have it, right? Mm-hmm. But I think one of the things about, you know, games is that always, you know, your system has to offer some things that the other system doesn't. You know, Genesis does what Nintendo don't. You know what I'm saying? So I think I've always felt that like making multi-platform games have exclusive features was just like the biggest cop out in the world. Uh-huh. You know, and so with Sony, they're not allowing cross-platform play. But then they also have like exclusive titles, right? Mm-hmm. For me, I'm just like a little more like upset that like everybody's making such a big deal out of this. Like, to me, the real problem here is that Microsoft has no games. And you're probably thinking like, how did you relate it to that? But it's like, I mean, yeah, like would Microsoft would they have allowed crossplay circa 2008 or 9?
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Don't even have to think about it. Yeah.
Exactly. And why? Because at that point in time, they had the games, they had the better internet, like they had the features, they had the money, they had the power. So let's not try to play Sony out like there's some bad guy, you know. This is no, you know, this is not no Sony fanboyism. Like this is just the reality of it, you know. Like, yeah, I mean, I probably would do that too.
Yeah, it's very opportunistic of Microsoft to come out like, oh, of course we're in favor of crossplay. It's those Sony people that aren't.
Right.
And, you know, another aspect of this, too, is and this might just be that I don't like change or something, but I kind of like the idea of having like some level of loyalty or allegiance to your machine, even though at this point I own all of them. But still, like, I like the idea of preferring one group over the other, and I feel like this is kind of like trying to, like, tear down the Berlin Wall or something, and like, because I mean, if you could play crossplay everything, every multi-platform game, if they were all crossplay, I feel like there would be way less fanboyism, and some people might think that's a good thing, but I do too to a degree, but I kind of like the competitive aspect. I kind of like being like, I'm a PlayStation guy or whatever, or an Xbox guy, that was a big thing. Maybe it's just because I grew up in the 90s when it was Sega,
when it was an actual thing.
Yeah, it was a real thing.
Every good game was an exclusive.
Exactly. And yeah, so I don't really want to see an end to that just through crossplay, kind of having everyone eat each other.
because we all know, like, as well as I know, the moment crossplay becomes big, Fortnite, Call of Duty, woo. What's left? You know what I'm saying? Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation View. Mm-hmm. Who gives a fuck about that shit? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I do like Game Pass though. But still, it's like, there needs to be exclusivity. And, if you have exclusive networks, then you have exclusive networks. Mm-hmm. Again, like, I don't think that's I think that's, like, still a cop-out way to be doing it. But, yeah, I mean, it is there. And that's the thing, too. I mean, people keep saying that Sony, Sony's not going to allow Sony won't allow crossplay. So, like, the bad guys here, but if crossplay was allowed, like, would that make people buy more Xboxes? Because that's kind of, so it's like, so like, if you ask me, right, like, the only reason I even bought an Xbox was because I wanted to play a multi-platform game with people who had an Xbox, right? Yeah. If I could have just done that for my PlayStation 4, I literally probably would still not have an Xbox One. Like, if they were like, oh yeah, you can play Destiny, I would have just bought a PlayStation, right? And I'm sure more people would have done that. And why? Like, just the sheer reason. Like, there's other games here. You know what I'm saying? Like, Sony might be doing Microsoft a service. Because they don't have Last of Us 2 coming out. You know what I'm saying? They don't have God of War. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's not gonna... I think what it is it's just posturing. It's just saying we're for the players and they're not. I think it's just that's the only aspect where it works as a marketing thing.
Microsoft
because then,
better be saying that right about them now.
Yeah, that's the only way that it works. Because otherwise, I mean, if you already have an Xbox or a PlayStation, you're not gonna buy the other based off of that. Or if you have neither, you're not gonna buy one or the other based off of that. So yeah, I don't think that's really, I think it's just to seem like they're pro player, pro the little guy, and anti greed, anti big money. So yeah, I think it's kind of phony, but
yeah, it's definitely phony. And I think another thing too. I mean, look, if we're gonna sit up here as well-educated, intelligent adults and really discuss games, let's throw that ethnocentrism bullshit out the fucking window. Okay. Microsoft damn near has one market, and it's English-speaking Westerners, okay? Mm-hmm. Sony has, like, a whole market that they could survive in and do well in and just be like, fuck America, if they wanted to. Would they be as big? Of course not, right? But, like, I mean, they have a bunch of other games that won't even benefit from this at all, because they're either only in Japan, only played by Japanese players, or are, just fighting games. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like, what does this do for Street Fighter 5? I guess you can play with PC people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so, like, let's not forget that as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is this? I don't know. Senran Kagura, Peach Splash, whatever one of those games is. You know what I'm saying? I think I just mixed up two titles together, but whatever. Like, that's not going to benefit from multi-platform crossplay. No. Okay? But the anime nerds in Tokyo who buy busts of busty anime girl characters.
Busts of busties, wow.
Yeah, they have money, and they're customers, and Sony has to care about them. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So, throw this shit out the window. Microsoft it's only in like 2 countries, Xbox, and yeah, they're hurting right now.
Yeah, they got to do everything they can to bridge the gap. So,
exactly.
For sure. All right. Lastly, and I guess this could kind of relate to that as well, gaming journalism. So, the thing to me about gaming, and it's interesting that we came off of this crossplay discussion because the particular article that I read that kind of led to that topic being brought up was this article where they were framing the crossplay debate almost as if it was like segregation. They were talking about, because they talked about, I guess there was some incident where for a brief hour or something like that, Epic made some kind of mistake with their programming of Fortnite, and for a brief period of time, PlayStation and Xbox players were allowed to mingle together in Fortnite. And then it was promptly, segregated again. And I think they might have even used that word in the article. And so it was written as if it was like this great social injustice. Like they were talking about this in this very inflated language. And this has really been my problem with, because there's all this, I don't want to get in a whole Gamergate and the whole, SJW thing and all that stuff. But my main problem with the gaming journalism, I think, and you can call it journalism, I call it activism at this point, because there's a lot of articles that are written from this perspective of, it seems like people that probably study journalism in college, they like video games, they get a job working at Polygon or whatever, and they want to find, they want to seek out legitimacy in their field. They see all this stuff from the universities and politics and all that stuff, and they want to bring that into gaming to kind of feel self-important and legitimate in what they're doing. And they want to inflate all of these issues. And so when you get articles written like, Valve needs to do a better job of policing hateful games on Steam, and articles about how, gaming developers and publishers are afraid of the politics in their games, and they need to be more explicit about the political intentions of their games and this and that. I feel like there's definitely a push for activism, and they want these developers and these games to be more outright and outspoken about issues and things like that. And that's kind of the problem that I have with it, because it's not journalism, it's not reporting on it's definitely interpreting, it's definitely pushing for things to happen, pushing for change, where change a lot of times does not even need to be occurring. I mean, do we need to talk about what Fortnite needs to do to be more inclusive or something like that? Probably not. It's probably not that big of an issue in the grander scheme of things, So when I see these kind of articles on these sites, that's kind of the problem I have with it.
Honestly, when you really talk about like the whole, we'll hear what Smokey has to say. Well, I guess my thing is this, when it really comes to the whole gaming activism thing, I won't say I've like been on the fence. I've definitely been on the like get this shit out of here side of it. But I guess maybe like peeking through a small hole in that fence to the other side. And the reason I say that is this is because, okay, as a black gamer, right? I've always, enjoyed, seeing black characters in games, right? I've always enjoyed, I guess just like feeling represented, right? But at the same time, I played a lot of games as a kid, and even though, like, I would say that I experienced that representation thing very early on. Obviously, Streets of Rage 2, right? But even going beyond that, it was never like, it never stopped me from wanting to play another game. Right, there were plenty of games. Like I was looking at like the cast of Smash Bros the other day, and I was like, nobody in this has dark skin, right? But like,
yeah,
but I'm not gonna like not play it, and and it's just kind of like a thing that happens, and and that's just one topic of it, like, so now, so it's like now I find myself, pushing for, game developers, or not, I'm not saying I am doing it, but it's like, then you get to a point where you're like, we want, racial representation in this, and then it becomes sexual representation, then it becomes, proper economic representation, or representation of this, or, don't do this and don't do that. And then at the end of the day, like, is this even, like, now, is it even still like the same fantasy that it was before? Mm-hmm. Is it even the same, escape from reality that it was before? Mm-hmm. Because it's all about reality. And I do definitely like the point that you make about like these kids who study journalism who then get into games and want to try to, make themselves legitimate. It's because like I've seen that and I've been through that before. I feel like that was like a lot of what tech TV was, right? It was very interesting to me. Is because like growing up, like as a gamer, right? I always had this thing like when you guys are like sitting up and like waiting for like your show to come on or whatever, like I'm playing a video game. Like this is like what I do, right? Mm-hmm. So like a video game TV channel was like kind of ridiculous in the first place, right? It's kind of like an oxymoron. And then you turn it on and like what are they doing? It's like, oh, like here's game this and like game that, and they're showing like, we got game models, and we got cool gamer dudes, and it's just like, what the hell is this shit? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, yeah, like, it's like you're really trying to like, yeah, like bring some outside thing into like this game world and make it a thing. And I've been there as well. Like, even on like the first Hyper Evo, right? Like we had this article series that was called Game Gear, and it was like gear in terms of like, how we used to use that slang for clothes, right? Yeah. So it was like every time like a sneaker or a shirt came out that was like dope and used some game imagery, I would post it, right? But it's like, yeah, like, but it's like at the end of the day, like I'd rather just buy that, have it on, and be playing a video game, than like going on a blog and like being into that, because that's what it leads to. It's like it becomes to a point where it's like, are you playing Grand Theft Auto 5? Or are you just like really concerned with bitching about its representation of women?
Well, yeah, it's like, well, I think
you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, we're talking about it. Yeah, famously, yeah, I think it was GameSpot gave it like a 9.5 or something like that because of that. But yeah, it's trying to make it into something that it isn't, And I feel like this doesn't really happen so much with other art forms, which is interesting. I mean, to some degree, sure. People are cinemaphiles or whatever, or people are into high literature and this and that. But I feel like, at the end of the day, a book is a book, a movie is a movie. It's understood. If people are to draw conclusions or make, metaphors or whatever from that artwork, if someone reads a book and they think that it's, a reflection of, what happened in 9/11 or something like that, or our mindset after, some kind of parallel that you might draw or something like that. Sure, like that's understood, that happens. But the thing that got me thinking about this was like there was an article that I read, and it was on Polygon, where the guy his whole thing was these publishers and these developers need to be more vocal about the issues in their games, and they need to be more they need to explicitly state basically what it is they're saying. Because he quotes David Cage, the founder of Quantic Dream, saying that Detroit Become Human, it was really just about androids to him, it just quote unquote it's just a game about androids. And he's like, well, this is ridiculous and blah blah blah, he needs to come out and say what it's really about. And it's like, well, at the end of the day, I mean, if he's the artist and he wants his art to be obscure and he wants to, not interpret it for people, that's absolutely his right to do that. And I don't know why you would sit up here with this kind of inflated sense of self to think that you're going to tell the artist that he needs to explain what his work is all about in order to make it a social thing and force some kind of change to happen, or force some kind of quote difficult conversation that they're always talking about wanting to have, and then no one ever really actually has. So yeah, I think that's kind of where I was going with this. It's like, for some reason, there's this urge to make games into... It seems like there's constantly this urge to, like, legitimize them or make them into something. It's like they're already legitimate. I don't know, we don't need to, like, make them into these big political forces or anything like that. I mean, that can already be done without having to... You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it needs to be forced out of the developers and the publishers to say, hey, Detroit Become Human came out and it says this about Donald Trump or whatever, you know. It's like
no, look, I'll say this, you know, and sorry to my colleagues, you know, but I studied sociology in grad school, right? So I know a lot about people having a chip on their shoulder. Okay, I'll just say that. Yeah, I mean, I've always noticed that chip on the shoulder. You know, yeah, like, I mean, hey, it comes from your mom. You know, quit playing these damn Nintendo games. You know, yo, mom, this has real story in it, real characters and everything. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we've all been there. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, I'm not finna explain this shit to my mom. It, like, Metal Gear Solid is dope as hell. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I'm just gonna play it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need her to, like, understand it and accept it. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, there's plenty of other shit in this world that is like much bigger than that. You know what I'm saying? Like I still know that they are games. You know what I'm saying? Like there's plenty of bigger things out there. So yeah, so they don't need to be so legitimized like that. And it's not that I'm saying that people can't have these opinions because again, you know, like I said, I mean, if there's any like you know, quote unquote social justice way that I can relate to the things I see in games, it definitely has to do with like race, right? It's like with Detroit Become Human, for example. From the day they showed the game, one of the first things I noticed, because I live very close to the city of Detroit, was this is called Detroit, and it definitely doesn't look 85% black to me, right? So like, you know, like that, like influenced my view of the game in terms of it being like a legitimate representation, and then it influenced me like, you know, wanting to purchase it at launch, right? Because like, to me, it would have been cool to have this game that was about this city that was close to me, right? But like, it doesn't look to like accurately represent that. So, like, I'm just not that hyped to go buy it, right? So, instead of buying it, I'm just going to play X-Men Legends. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to, like, write a big article about how it needs to properly represent the racial makeup of Detroit because, like, it doesn't need to. You know what I'm saying? Because at the very same time, I've enjoyed, like, yeah, like, my last Let's Play was Snatcher, right? And, like, Snatcher takes place in Kobe. And, like, you play as, like, a white dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, if there's any city in Japan that's going to represent white people, it's definitely going to be Tokyo, not Kobe. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I've enjoyed that on the other end. You know what I'm saying? And that's like a fantasy of mine. It's like a more racially diverse Tokyo, right? But then would somebody who lives there think that that's bullshit? Like, of course, right? So everybody has, like, you all have the right. I think people have the right because we don't want to take that away from anybody. Yeah, like, you know, I'm not saying everybody can't say what the fuck they want to say. But the problem is like, yeah, like, with all this gaming journalism shit, it becomes, like, bigger than the damn game. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, of course we can have an opinion. Nobody's saying you can't have no damn opinion, but we just saying, like, shut the fuck up and play some games. You know what I'm saying? Like, the game is called Grand Theft Auto. Like, one of the most famous things you could do in the game is have sex with a hooker and beat the shit out of her and take the money. So why are you going to complain about representation of women? You should have been playing the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's literally like me giving Mortal Kombat a bad review in 2018 because of the amount of blood and gore and the fatalities. Like, come on. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's ridiculous. And I just got one more thing I had to say because we've talked about this before. Now, we talked a lot about gamer journalism in terms of, like, social things, right?
Yes.
Even bigger than that, I think there's just a lot of bullshit out there.
Yes.
And there's this article that I showed to Queasy Crayfish one time, and it's this guy from Forbes, and he literally makes a whole article about how, like, 2K would be a better series if it was more like Fortnite, okay?
And it envisions some secret mode or not even a secret mode, just some alternate mode where it's like a post-apocalyptic, you know, basketball court or something.
Yeah, and you're like building shit to try to stop LeBron from going to the Lakers. Like, what the fuck? Like, yo, like this, like literally, like that's like me saying Gran Turismo should learn from Mario Kart. Like, no, Mario.
Clickbait.
I'm just gonna leave it at
clickbait.
That. If you think that's a good damn idea, then stop listening to this podcast because I don't want you to be around.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Clickbaity articles, ridiculous headlines like that. Like, you know, what if I write an article about how, you know, Grand Theft Auto should be more like Super Mario? Yeah, I mean, then you're gonna get people clicking on it just to like and go, what the fuck is this?
Exactly.
So they can comment angrily, you know, and then in the comments section. So
you know, and even I've been sucked into this, but like the top 10s that we're getting are damn near as bad as like sports stats. You know, like
the top 300s.
You know, what top 300s? Even just like top 10 games where the main character drinks alcohol but isn't an abusive alcoholic. You know, like what? You know what I'm saying? Like, who gives a shit? You know what I'm saying?
Famous subgenre.
So yeah, and I mean, and this even goes on to the YouTube level. You know what I'm saying? Video game retro collectors. I challenge you, motherfuckers, to pick up a goddamn Sega game. You know what I'm saying? How come the holy grail of every retro collection is Ocarina of Time? You know what I'm saying? Why is Nintendo's? I don't want to say any bad words. You know what I'm saying? But you know. How else can I say this besides why y'all got Nintendo's in your mouth? Okay. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah, bleep it out.
Okay. Well, we can bleep it out.
You know, but it's like, come on, guys. You know, there's a lot of stuff out here. There's a lot of things to see. Yeah. We shouldn't have even been talking about this.
Well, you know, yeah. Because
gaming journalism.
At the end of the day, you're talking about them, you're not playing them.
Exactly.
Which is kind of what we're doing right now. But you know what?
I'm not.
Fuck it.
Yeah. During this whole podcast, I've been playing Final Fantasy 13, so everybody kiss my ass.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else to add?
This is bad journalism.
Bad journalism. It's fake news. Yeah, this has been Queasy Crayfish.
Mars Vindicator.
The pause. And yeah, this has been episode 10 of Status Quo.
Fuck this gamer journalism.
That's right, getting hyped up in here.
Yeah, I'm serious.
In studio, you know, throwing it down with some lockdown Scotch ale, the worst beer ever made.
I'm telling you guys, look, I needed it because look, guys, it's not good right now. I'm just telling you this.
It's not good.
It's not good.
It's not good.
It's literally not good.
It's been in the fridge for like a year at least.
I'm talking about that damn journalism.
Oh, okay. Well, that too. That's been in the fridge for a year at least too.
That's been in the trash for 10 years.
Alright, well, we'll see you next Monday for episode 11. And yeah, we're out of here.